accompanying Sri Vidya Sagar. She is one of our board members also.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, friends. It's a great pleasure to join, that all of you are joining this program. And thanks to Ashwaji, Sanat, everybody helping us. Most of you know Ashwaji. Again, is a scholar, one scholar, and he's got decades of experience educating people like us, and a highly knowledgeable person. First of all, I want to invite Swamiji, that is Ashwath Swamiji. He is my Swami, my Guru, and I invite him to start the program. There have been 3 questions from the previous presentations which have been presented to Ashwathji. Kindly, you may start your program answering those 3 questions. I give it to Ashwathji. Thank you.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Shuklam Varadharam Vishnum Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vighnopashantaye. Om. Dear friends, Sadara Pranamahat, my salutations to each and every one of you. As Sagar Garu and Sanat mentioned that there are a couple of questions from our last session. We will address those. The first of the question I received is from Mrs. Kapadia. I don't know whether she is in the assembly today or not. Mrs. Kapadia if she is there. She has asked about the Gayathri Mantra, then what is the best time to do, and then how many should be done. And then there is also another set of 3 questions where there is an overlapping. The overlapping is again where to do the mantra and how many has to be done, and essentially it's about the place. So the answer to that is, first of all, the best time is the Sandhya Kala. Sandhya Kala is where it is in the morning, the sun has not yet come out, but there is daybreak. That means we do have daylight, but the sun actually has not come out. So that is the time we should start performing the japa or the repetition of the Gayatri Mantra and continue to do the Gayatri Mantra until we see the orb of the sun over the horizon. So that is the most effective time. In fact, it is called as the Uttama Kala or Utkrishta Kala. Then the Madhyama Kala is where the sun is already arisen, but it is not yet noon. That means after the full sunrise and before the noon, that period is called Madhyama Kala. So one can do the Gayatri Japa, and of course Sandhya Vandana if anybody is observing that. So that period is Madhyama Kala. But if it goes past the midday, then it is called Adhama Kala, but still one can do for many reasons. A person may not be able to do the Gayatri Japa. For instance, like my brother Sanat Kumar, who might have a surgery very early in the morning and which goes on, and then he may get a chance to do the Japa only afterwards, but it is better to do it than not to do it. So then how to do it was another question. The Japa of Gayatri Mantra in the morning has to be done facing the sun, that is facing east, and it is done standing. Then in the evening, one should face west. So the time is still the sun is there and about to set. So we keep chanting the Gayatri Mantra till the last part of the orb of the sun actually sets in the horizon. until that time, and the japa is done sitting. So the reason is the Puranas say that in the morning Gayatri Devi is a child, Bala Swarupini, and then about afternoon, Madhyanika, I'll come to that in a minute. In the afternoon, it is she is a youthful person, a yuvati, and in the evening she is an old lady, and therefore in keeping with the physical form and the limitations, the morning japa is done standing, the evening japa is done sitting, and both times we face the sun, east or west. So place, as far as the place is concerned, it really doesn't matter where you do it, as long as the place is reasonably clean. So the Shastra says, Shuchau Deshe. For instance, can you do it in a restaurant where they serve meat and alcohol? Probably that's not the best place to do the Gayatri Japa. And if it comes to that, your car is probably much more sacred place than doing japa in such environment. So because the environment has an effect on our mind also. So I guess those were the three questions that I got. Sagar Garu, any other questions are there? Sanath? I think you are on mute, so if you could unmute yourself.
My question to you is, who should be doing the Gayatri Mantra? Can everybody do it?
Yes.
Or there is only certain class of people can do it?
No, everybody can do it, which we will see when I talk about the meaning of the mantra. You will see. And again, to give you a quick answer, that everybody can do, the Taittiriya Upanishad has got a beautiful mantra which says Swadhyaya Pravachanabhyam na pramaditavyam. Swadhyaya means the study, and Pravachana means teaching. No one should give up Swadhyaya and Pravachana, and the Upanishad does not mention either gender or caste by birth. So it is.
Okay, another question I have is, has it, that needs to be taught for a particular person? Like when you do the thread ceremony, we teach the children Gayatri Mantra. So similarly, does anybody has to be taught to even the elderly people? Is that possible?
Yes, a Diksha, an initiation is done. It need not be a very big ceremony. An initiation to be done by anybody whom you respect as a teacher, and one who does Gayatri Japa can actually transmit that. So you can take that from anybody. And then the Upanayana Samskara, for which is done, has got two parts. One is there is a religious part, and another is there is a festivity part. So the religious part is very simple, and that need not be elaborate, and it can be done at any point of time for anybody. And in fact, for Indianapolis, they asked me, and I have initiated about 250 people in one assembly, and then so that is those things have been done in the past. For example, when the children go to the Gurukula for learning the Veda, and all the initiates, irrespective of their origin, they are all initiated into Gayatri Japa. So to answer your question, yes, you can be initiated. There is no need for having a elaborate ceremony.
Namaste, Aswath. When we do japa in the morning and evening, how many times we do that?
Okay.
11 times or
10 times is the minimum that is prescribed, and then there is a way of doing it using your digits in your right hand. I will come to that during today's presentation.
Okay. And one last question. I know we're not supposed to do that, but can we do this japa while driving anytime?
I would say yes, as long as you are not distracted from your driving. Sometimes what happens is as you get deeper into the meditative state, we lose awareness of our environment. That's the power of that mantra. So as long as you can do that multitasking, it is fine. Otherwise, at one point of time, you can go into a samadhi state when you are doing the japa. So that's
Yeah,
one.
I recently did that. I was 108 times I did like 45 minutes while driving. Yes, towards the end I was feeling like in the trance. Then I thought, okay, but luckily I finished. Last 10, I did 108, and I thought, okay.
That's
Thank you.
that's a little bit of a caveat because I have done it. I have overshot my destination by several miles sometimes. So
Sanjay, last question, I hope. Can you do manana rather than verbally? You have to ucharana.
Yes.
You have to do.
Yes, in the Ucharana there are three methods. One is where you say aloud, another is where you whisper, and the third is where you do completely silently. Yeah, yeah. All the three are permitted because again, the person who is doing the japa will have to decide whether he can concentrate. So ultimately, that is the idea.
Thank you.
Very good. I think I have responded to all the questions received so far. If there are more, you please do send it to Sanat, Dr. Sagar, and then I will, or to me, we will respond. And Parthiban sir is also there. You can send to anybody. Thank you. With that.
Regarding submitting the questions, the way we are following is when we are RSVPing for this session, there is a form they can fill in the questions. In case they forgot or they came up with the question later on, they can email it back to us.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we'll continue with our study. In our last session, which was also part of the study of the Gayathri Mantra, we have covered the pranava. Pranava is also Om, and this from which we actually start the repetition of the Gayatri Japa, as the whole mantra is Om Bhur Bhuvaswaha Tat Savitarvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayat. Om is Pranava, and then I gave quite an elaborate explanation of the makeup of Om, Akara, Ukara, Makara. And secondly, in the last month's discussion, I also spoke about Bhur Bhuvaswaha. Bhur Bhuvaswaha are called Vyahratis, that is three utterances. The three utterances, Bhuhu, Bhuvaha, Suvaha, all those three are combined grammatically to make it as Bhur Bhuva Suvaha. So I also presented the various ramifications and the meanings of those three. Today, we will take up the Gayathri Mantra itself. And this Gayathri Mantra, the origin of this Gayathri Mantra, from where this comes, it is from the Rigveda Samhita. In fact, after we study the Gayathri Mantra, I suggest that we take up what are our Shastras, and then starting from the Vedas, the classification. So we will look at the structure of our spiritual heritage and the texts. So this among the four branches of the Veda, we have the Rigveda, and the Rigveda's mantra portion is called Samhita. This Samhita has got 8 books. Out of those 8 books, Gayatri Mantra is found in the 3rd book, the 62nd chapter, and the 10th mantra. Even though this mantra is hidden in a forest of mantras, 10,400 mantras are there in the entire Rigveda. Of them, this is hiding in the chapter 3 in the book 3, chapter 62, and then, but still, the power of this mantra is such that probably anybody who has heard of a mantra know this Gayatri mantra, and the mantra goes as Tat Saviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. In our learning tradition of the Veda, for getting accurate pronunciation and accurate meaning, the mantras which are actually conjoined words, and those words are actually separated for the sake of understanding, not for doing japa. When you are doing japa, we chant the entire thing, Tat Saviturvarenyam Om Bhurbhuvasvaha Tat Saviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. But for the sake of understanding the meaning, we will divide the mantra into their words. So it is called as a pada patha. So I will talk more about it when we discuss the structure of the Veda itself. So the pada patha is Tat Savituhu Varenyam Bhargaha Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyaha Yaha Naha Prachodayat. That is how the verse breaks up. So the Gayatri mantra is in a poetic form. So, and it consists of 24 letters. It is spread over 3 lines of 8 letters each. So that is the meter. So it is a Gayatri mantra, and it's composed in the Gayatri meter, and the Gayatri meter consists of 3 lines, and each line consists of 8 letters, totally making up 24 letters. So let us rearrange these words, which are in poetry, into a prose form for the sake of understanding the meaning. Yaha naha dhiyaha prachodayat tat devasya savituhu varenyam bhargaha dhimahi. So this will help us in understanding the meaning. So yaha, that means that Paramatman, that repository of all knowledge, that Paramatman, that Parabrahman, Yaha. Naha means our. Dhiyaha, Dhi means intellect, Buddhi. And then Prachodayat, may we be inspired. For that, Tat, that Devasya, God, Savituhu, Surya, who is Varenyam, great, attractive, and then very desirable. And his Bhargaha is splendor, his transformative power, Dhimahi, we meditate. So that is a word by word meaning, and the whole meaning in a sentence will be, we meditate upon that Paramatman, God, who inspires our dhihi, our intellect, and who is the progenitor, and we meditate upon his splendor. So this is the verbatim meaning. So let us look at a little bit deeper into this. So first and foremost, the mantra starts with Tat. Tat Saviturvarenyam Tat. In Sanskrit, the word Tat or Tata means that which pervades, which totally pervades. So that which pervades the microcosmic universe and the macrocosmic universe, that is inside me and outside me, and is actually even beyond that. And this entity cannot be identified by a name or form, and therefore we use the word that, Tat. Because once you have name and form, then it gets localized. It will be in one location. And once we say that something is in one location, then what happens is it cannot be all pervading. And therefore, to resolve that, sage Vishwamitra, who is the one who discovered this Mahamantra, this Gayathri mantra, sage Vishwamitra, he uses the word Tat. Then if you look at the word Naha, means our. So even though you are alone meditating, you are just saying the Gayatri mantra and nobody else is around you, but still you use the plural saying our. So what does this mean? What it means is, I am not praying just for myself. And my prayer is for the entire universe. It is not even limited to my own family. It is not even limited to my own country. It is not even limited to even this world. Any being who can be there in anywhere in the whole universe, for all of them, let there be this inspiration. So this is how we expand our heart to include the entire universe. So one who expands is Tat or Tataha, and therefore a person who meditates on Gayatri mantra, his awareness expands just as Parabrahman is pervading the entire universe. In short, one who meditates becomes Parabrahman because of the characteristic. So then, Dhiyaha. Dhiyaha is also a plural number. How many intellect do I have? I have got only one intellect. But then why did the sage use the plural Dhiyaha? It is because any part of my person, my personality, where awareness and sentiency shines through. So what are the areas of my personality where sentiency shines through? Through my body. Because every gesticulation I do with my body has got meaning. The way I see has got meaning. The way I stand, my posture also conveys a meaning, and therefore consciousness and awareness shines through the body, which is Kaya. Then what I think many times is known to others, because in the way in which I conduct myself, my mind can also be read, and therefore that is also a shining principle, Manas. Then of course speech. I express my personality through speech, and hence Dhiyaha is used plural because when Manas, mind, walk, speech, Kaya, body, all these three are combined and they become sentient, they need to be prachodayat, inspired. So therefore the sage uses the plural number Dhiyaha, uses the plural number Naha to include the entire universe. So we are asking for Naha Dhiyaha Prachodayat. May our body, mind and speech be inspired. But who should inspire? Somebody who can inspire all the three. At the same time only can be inspiring. And therefore, Vishwamitra Maharshi identifies the great, attractive and desirable Varenyam, and who is ever splendorous and who has a transformative power, and that is Bhargaha, and also known as Savita, also known as Surya. And that is why this mantra, the devata of this mantra is Savitru or Surya, and the adidevata of the mantra is actually Gayatri Devi. So then we have meditation, Dhimahi. So that means I am meditating on the Pratyaksha Devata, that is immediately apparent Devata, who is Surya, who is capable of inspiring, impelling me to work, and who has got the ability of a Deva, that means one who is shining. May that Savitru Deva, who is worshipful, may we meditate upon him for inspiration. So you can see this is a highly spiritual mantra. And again, in this translation of the mantra, you don't see any indication of caste, creed, or gender. So you internally also you can see this is a mantra that can be chanted by anybody. Somewhere in our tradition, they introduced all these misunderstandings that some class of society should not chant, women should not chant Gayatri Mantra. For all of those things, there is no basis in the Vedic Shastra. So, next question is, if we have to get inspired by something or someone from outside, then there must be a corresponding recipient also within. Surya is actually inspiring, because as soon as sunrise is there, all of us are impelled to get up and go to work. Our mind gets fresh when we see the sun, and then our speech starts, because the whole night we have not spoken, we are sleeping. But the moment we get up, what happens? We start talking. So Vak is awakened by Surya, Manas is awakened by Surya, and of course, because it is daybreak, even the body is awake. And therefore, this Surya is actually inspiring. The inspired, which means my body, mind, and speech, must have some element of consciousness to be inspired. If you go speak with a piece of rock, the rock cannot respond because the body of the rock does not have Chaitanyam. Isn't it? So if Surya is inspiring me, I must also have Chaitanyam within me. And therefore, this is also a recognition that within me there is a consciousness principle, and that consciousness principle which is in Surya is actually communicating with a consciousness principle within me, and therefore that consciousness which is within me, the Chaitanyam, you Surya, please energize and awaken. Because this Dhiyaha, Manas, Buddhi, and Manas, Deha, and speech, these have become dormant. These have become, these are not functioning. And that function, O Surya, you please awaken. Now, there is another importance of this prayer, that is, by means of using Naha, that is including the entire creation, and by using Dhiyaha, both of them in plural, the sage is teaching us harmony. So not only there is a verbal harmony of body, senses and speech, but also there is a harmony between all the living beings experienced. And therefore, every sentient being must chant the Gayatri Mantra. Then what happens? The Chaitanya inside, the consciousness principle inside every thinking human being is praying, may all of us be inspired. And that is how we create an extraordinary society, and therefore everybody should chant Gayatri Mantra. In fact, it is to a great credit that the Gayathri Parivar, led by Sri Rama Sharma, have done this in extraordinary manner all over the world. So they have actually got the pulse of this Gayatri Mantra, and they have gone all around the world propagating that everybody should chant the Gayatri Mantra. Now, here is another process that takes place. Say, so you asked me, what is the time to do this? The time of daybreak, I said. At that point of time, how are we? We are just coming out of sleep. In other words, we are in the tamas, just trying to emerge from the tamas. And then we get into rajas. And that's about how much all living beings do. But by understanding the meaning of the Gayatri Mantra, from mere existence, just like mere existence, all I do is ahara, nidra, bhaya, maithunani. Ahara, I take food, I sleep, nidra, I am afraid and therefore I do something, I try to secure myself and then I procreate. Samanyametate pashubhihi naranam. This is common to animals and human beings. Buddhirhitesham adhiko visheshaha. What is special about the human beings? It is the intellect that is special. The buddhi is special. Buddhya vihinaha pashubhis samanaha. A person who has no buddhi, that he is equal to the animal. So from the animalistic, just eating, sleeping and procreating, that is tamas. From that mere existence, I want to get into activity. And therefore we say, Hey Surya Deva, Naha for all of us, Prachodayat, let us get into engagement with the world. And let us get into the transactional world. And then the Prachodayat does not stop there. We say, you take me to the Sattva Guna or pure knowledge, the Jnana state. That is, from inertness and sloth, take me to activity, and from activity, take me to wisdom. And therefore, Devasya, that Deva, I worship. Why the sage use the word Deva? It comes from the Sanskrit root div. And this has got 10 different meanings. We will take the most important meaning. Div kantav. That means that which brings shining. So this Deva, Savitru Deva shines, and let him bring the shining consciousness which is dormant in me. As the sun is rising in the eastern horizon, simultaneously, the consciousness principle in my heart, let it arise. So when we are doing the dhyana of the Gayatri dhyana, please look at the sun who is rising. And as the sun is rising, you also imagine that your own awareness in your heart is also rising. Shedding the splendor of this inner consciousness on your first and foremost on the deha, on the body, so make it energetic. Then on the manas, the intellect. Then how do we make our walk or speech as a sattva guna speech? We do that by chanting the mantra. That's why the very first chant we do, as we see the rising sun, is Gayatri Mantra, so that our speech is full of sattva guna. And yad vacha vadati, whatever we speak, tat karmana karoti, that is what we do in action. The Upanishad mantra says, yan manasa manute, tad vacha vadati, tat karmana karoti. Yan manasa manute, whatever the person thinks in his mind, tad vacha vadati, that is what he speaks. Whatever he speaks, tat karmana karoti, that is what he does. So thus you will see, we will actually start with the manas and say that here dhiyo yonah prachodayat, and that dhiyo yonah prachodayat spans over the three levels of our personality, the body, mind and the speech. And then just as the rising sun is shedding light and the splendor, may the Chaitanya in my heart also rise and shower the splendor. And the next question is, why do we look at this Surya among all the devatas that are available to us? Why the sage has chosen Surya? It is because, look at the etymology of the word Surya. Suvati karmani lokam prerayati iti. That means he is the one who inspires the world to act. Suyate characharam jagat rakshati iti. He is the one who gives birth to animate and inanimate objects and also protects. Therefore, Surya. And the Veda mantra says, Surya Atma Jagatasthasthuhu. This Surya is the very soul of the entire universe. He is the Antaryami of this entire creation. Without Surya, there is no creation. Even one single day, if we did not have the sun, then the entire universe collapses. Another beautiful etymology of Surya is Suptam Prerayati iti Savita. That is, he asks me to awaken, to wake up, to wake up the inner consciousness. So hence, we choose the elemental sun called the Adibhautika Surya. And in front of this Adibhautika Surya, we start our Gayathri Japa. And then in the mind, we think of the deity behind the Surya. That is why Adi Daivika, he is called as Surya Narayana. And we have a beautiful prayer for Surya Narayana. Dhyayas sada savitrumandala madhyavarti Narayana sarasijasana sannivishtaha Keyuravan makarakundalavan kiriti Hari hiranyamaya vapuhu dhrita shankha chakraha. It's a description of Lord Narayana who is inhering in the elemental sun. Then there is the Adhyatmika, spiritual basis, that is the all-pervading Parabrahman in the universe and in myself. And therefore Gayatri Mantra, it has got the 24 letters, has also been mapped to the 24 names of Mahavishnu, which we use in our Sandhya Vandana. So many of you who may be actually performing Sandhya Vandana, you start with the Keshavaya Swaha, Narayana Swaha, Madhavaya Swaha, and go on to chant the 24 mantras. And each letter of the Gayatri Mantra is mapped on to one form of the Vedic God and one form of Mahavishnu. I have actually shared a PowerPoint presentation. Probably should we post it, or participants? How do we send it to all of our audience?
I can send it out, sir, to whoever registered. I can send it out.
Okay, I think
I'll email it later. Yeah.
Sure. They may find
you
it.
You don't want to do it right away, right?
I think so, because it is going to take at least probably a couple of hours for me to explain that entire PowerPoint, because it has got about 27 slides, and each one.
Then maybe I think that is another topic for a next
session.
Sure,
We can do another topic. Yeah. For example, Ta, the letter Ta maps on to the Vedic god Agni, and that is Keshava. And Keshava has a form. And I have also mapped on the form in that in that slides, the number of slides. So where the 4 artifacts Shankha Chakra Gada Padma, it actually changes. And there are, it's all metaphorical, there are symbolism, and some of those things we will discuss in a separate session. So this that is why the reason I mentioned even about this 24 names and 24 letters mapping to 24 names of Mahavishnu is because Gayathri Mantra Japa is preceded by Achamana, a purification process by taking the 24 names of Mahavishnu. And another reason for mentioning it is there is a text called Gayathri Sara Sangraha. That's a Sanskrit text which talks about the essence of Gayatri. Much of the information I presented today I have derived from that text. It also says every single letter has to be meditated upon. Varnanam Chintanam Dhyanam. Varnanam Chintanam. When you actually contemplate on every letter of the mantra you are studying, that is called meditation. Dhyanam. By doing that samyak properly, papa pranashanam, it actually removes all the negativities in us. So this is a quick summary of the Gayatri Mantra, and now we will take in the next 15 minutes or so the concept of the Sankshipta Puja Vidhi or the abridged Puja Vidhi. So first and foremost, we very, very commonly use the word puja. So what exactly does this word puja means? It comes from the Sanskrit root puh, the root puh. When it is combined with the result jayate, puh jayate iti puja. So puh means fruit or phala or outcome. That which jayate means brings about. That which brings about the fruit or the result of our action, it is called puja. In other words, we do puja for the sake of getting certain benefit. So any act that you do for getting a certain benefit, any act whatsoever, is a puja, isn't it? You go to work for the sake of getting a salary, income. So your work is puja. And the saying work is worship is befitting. And similarly, no person will do anything without expecting something out of it. Shastra says, phalam vina mandopi na pravartate. Even an idiot will not do anything unless there is some benefit out of it. But in the sense of puja, ultimate aim is to get mental peace. So we cannot use the word puja for everything. Whichever puja that brings shanti is actually can be called puja. Because how do we get shanti? Any act which can cleanse our mind and stabilize that. Just like if you want to see your reflection in a mirror, two conditions have to be satisfied. Number one, the mirror must be spotlessly clean. And number two, the mirror should not be moving, isn't it? If the mirror keeps on moving, how can you look at your own image and your reflection in the mirror? So the Shastra says, Nirmala Nischala Mukuram. Nirmala Nischala. It must be pure and it must be immobile. It must not move about. If the mind is made like that, if the mind does not waver, does not wander, and if the mind is pure, that becomes the mirror for my own Swarupa. And therefore, what puja does is, puja cleanses the mind, and secondly, puja stabilizes the mind. And how does it do it? By means of reducing all our negative qualities. And hence, in Mahabharata, in Shanti Parva, Bhishma Pitamaha says, Jnanam utpadyate pumsam, Jnanam utpadyate pumsam, Kshayat papasya karmanaha, by means of destruction of our negativity, Yathadarsha talaprakhyaha, Pashyati atmanam atmani, just as a pure mind, just as a beautifully cleansed, stable mirror reflects our face perfectly, like that our own Swarupa is reflected perfectly, and for that reason puja has to be done. So we have to make a case as to why puja has to be done. Second question, we are talking about an abridged puja because we are very busy. So when you condense and do an abridged puja, is it complete? If abridged puja is complete, why should we have an elaborate puja? So every thinking person will ask such questions. For that our Shastra says very well, Sankshipta vistarabhyam pradarshitaha arthaha buddhim arohati. That means anything that we do has to be explained in detail, and after explaining in detail, you must also summarize it in a short sentence. When done so, this is again the technique all excellent communicators use. They actually expand on a subject, and then at the end of it, they actually summarize and give a 1 or 2 sentence summarization, and that way, Sankshipta Vistarabhyam, by means of elaborate explanation and summarization, then Arthaha Pradarshitaha, what is the idea you want to convey is perfectly conveyed, and buddhim arohati, it goes and establishes itself in the mind of the listener. And therefore, friends, you must know how to do the elaborate puja. And once you have known how to do the elaborate puja, then if you do the abridged puja, you will get the best benefit. Then, abridgment is also another reason. This Sankshipta or abridgment is not limited only to puja, it is also used in scripture. Take for example Bhagavata. It has got 18,000 verses. And there is a Ekashloki Bhagavata. In one single verse, the entire Bhagavata is epitomized. Similarly, 24,000 verses of Ramayana is epitomized in the first chapter of Valmiki Ramayana, Balakanda. The very first chapter is called Shatashloki Ramayana. The whole scope of Vedanta is abridged in just 1,000 lines called Sahasrashloki. So thus you can actually do the Shodasha Upachara Puja, the 16-step puja, and that is actually condensed into the Sankshipta Puja Vidhi for the sake of the busy people who already know how to do the full-fledged puja. Having said that, what are the bases in which Ishvara is worshipped? There are 6 bases that are available. In water, puja can be done in fire, where you do Hauma and Havana. In the solar orb, we already talked about that, the Gayathri Mantra, when you are doing it in the presence of the sun in the solar orb, you are doing puja. In one's own heart, that's where the Sankshipta Puja Vidhi comes. On a sacred pedestal or in an icon. So number 1, water. Number 2, fire. Number 3, solar orb. Number 4, in a mantapa, altar. Number 5, in an icon. And finally, number 6, in one's own heart. This is called Shadayatana. So those who observe yajna use fire. The wise, this is Vishnu Purana says, the wise, the intelligent worship in the solar orb. That's why Gayathri Mantra is done in the presence of the sun. The yogis do that in their heart. And those with limited understanding will do in a pedestal or in an icon. So with this Sankshipta Puja Vidhi, one can do a short dhyana. This dhyana is, you can use Shuklambaradharam Vishnu, Agajanana Padmarkam, any verse that you know about Vishnu or Ganapati can be used. Then you can actually also chant a mantra, Ganana Antva Ganapatikam Havamahe Kavim Kavinamupamashravastamam Jyeshtarajam Brahmanan Brahmanaspata Anashrinvannoti Visida Sadhanam Mahaganapataye Namaha. So the abridged puja vidhi starts with a dhyana, which can be Shuklam Varadharam Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantaye, and a prayer for Ganapati. Agajanana Padmarkam Gajanana Maharnisham Anekadam Tam Bhaktanam Ekadantam Upasmahe. Then you can also chant the mantra Om Ganana Antva Ganapatigam Havamahe Kavim Kavinamupamashravastamam Jyeshtarajam Brahmanan Brahmanaspata Anashrinvan Utivisida Sadhanam. Then when you are sitting down and doing the puja, a few things you have to assemble, like kumkum, haldi, then you can also have chandan, akshata, which is rice smeared with turmeric. So the best way to do akshata is it should not become saggy. The way to do it is you just take a tiny drop of ghee and then mix it well with the uncooked rice, and then have add a spoon of turmeric and then again mix it nice. So so that your hand doesn't get yellow and stained, it's hard to wash. So what you can do is you can actually wear a gloves, like a latex gloves, so that your hand doesn't get smart, and then you can make a bowl of akshata and keep it for everyday puja. And then a couple of flowers if you can find them, and then incense sticks, and then you can have a lighted lamp, and you could use for naivedya or food offering. One of the things I do is I will have a mixture of dry fruits and nuts, so that you have it in a container, in a bottle, and then take a few of them, offer it, and then take it as a prasada. You can do that every day. And so here are the mantras that you can do for this quick puja. Number 1, Lam Prithivyaatmakam Gandham Samarpayami. While chanting this mantra, we touch our ring finger like this with our thumb. Touching the ring finger, both hands, with our left thumb touching the left ring finger, right thumb touching the right finger, and then keeping our hand facing upwards, we say Lam Prithivyaatmakam Gandham Samarpayami. And then you, on the altar for the image that you are worshipping, you offer kunkumam, turmeric, haladi, smear the shrigandha, the chandan, and then offer akshata. Then second, you touch the thumb and the 4 fingers And again, holding the hand up, you say, Ham Akashatmakam Pushpai Pujayami. And if you have a couple of flowers, you offer the flowers. And number 3, with the 4 fingers touching the thumb. There, the thumb was touching the forefinger, now the forefinger touches the thumb. And by touching that, you say, Yam Vaivatmakam Dhupamagrapayami. Then you wave the incense sticks. Then the middle finger touched by the thumb, you say Ram Agnyatmakam Deepam Darshayami. Either you can just show the lamps that are already lighted, or you can also wave a lighted lamp, you can wave lighted camphor. Then with touching the ring finger with the thumbs, now you can say Vam Amritatmakam Amritopahara Naivedyam Samarpayami. The dry fruits that you have, or even fresh fruits, you can consecrate by chanting the Gayathri Mantra, Om Bhur Bhuvasvaha Tat Savitarvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. And that will be the food offering. Then finally, Sam Sarvatmakam Sarvopachara Pujam Samarpayami. You rub both of your hands and then you do Namaskara with both the folded hands and conclude with a Shanti Mantra. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Kayena Vacha Manasendriyairva Buddhyatmana va Prakrite Swabhavat Karomi Yadyat Sakalam Parasmai Narayanayeti Samarpayami. Harihi Om Tat Sat Brahmarpanamastu. Or your Ishta Devata. You can say Sri Krishnarpanamastu, Sri Bhavani Shankara Swami Devatarpanamastu. Depending on whoever is your Ishta Devata, you do that. So you usually you sit facing any direction other than the south. So that's one important thing. Then another important thing for doing puja is it is always done after taking a shower or a bath. Sandhya Vandana and Gayatri Mantra can be done even if you did not take a bath. But not so about puja. Puja has to be done because a Shastra says Snatva Shutir Bhutva. Snatva, having taken bath. And then Shuchir Bhutva, becoming clean. Shuchau Deshe Upavishya, sitting in a clean place. So those a little more conditions are there as far as puja is concerned. But whereas for Gayatri Mantra, it is everything is in your heart. So a word about why we are touching our fingers with the thumb and doing namaskara. What is the purpose? That is one other thing that we have to understand. I am borrowing this beautiful idea from Srimad Ramanujacharya's thesis. And Ramanujacharya says, how can we get the highest knowledge? Just give me 1 second, please. Okay. How can we get the highest knowledge? By employing the means. And the means is called upaya. By employing the highest means upaya, using the resources called the purusharthas, that is dharma, artha, kama, moksha, purusharthas, we overcome the obstacles called nirodha, and then we discover the nature of the self called swaswarupa, and also the nature of the highest called paraswarupa. So this is in English, this sentence. And that has got to be for the sake of doing the puja. Our thumb represents paraswarupa. Paraswarupa means it represents the highest. Because the thumb in the Upanishad calls it as Angushtamatra Purusho Angushtancha Samashritaha. The individual soul appears like the raised thumb. If you look at the raised thumb, it is like a lighted lamp. So the thumb represents Paraswarupa, and that is mapped onto the Gayathri mantra Tatsavituhu to the Devata Brahma. So we say Tatsavituhu Brahmatmane Angushtabhyan Namaha, and therefore Angushta or the thumb represents the highest Paramatman. Then what about the index finger? The index finger represents the Swaswarupa, my own nature. So my own nature is to be embraced. So to embrace my own nature is called Varenyam. Varaniyam, Sanskrit Varaniyam, that which should be obtained. In Vedic Sanskrit becomes Varenyam. So that Varenyam is index finger Swaswarupa Vishnuatmane, because Vishnu is the one who is inside. And then the middle finger, the proverbial middle finger, when you are upset with somebody, people raise the middle finger, and that is the Virodhi Swarupa. That means that which brings harm and the obstacles. For that, Bhargo Deva and Rudratmane. Rudra is the one who brings challenges in our life. And the ring finger is called the Purushartha Swarupa. That is, Purushartha is Dharma, Artha, Kama, but the final Purushartha, which is Moksha, and that is what we are going to meditate upon. So, Dhimahi Satyatmane, which is the reality. Then the small finger is called the Upaya Swarupa. What is the means for getting all this? An inspired mind. And therefore we say Dhiyo Yonaha, and then Prachodayat means one which covers everything, Sarvatmane. For that we just do Namaskara. So this is the spiritual basis of this 1 minute puja. But as you will see, we have contemplated on the highest Paraswarupa. We have contemplated on the Swaswarupa, my own nature. And I have recognized what obstacles can come, Virodhi Swarupa. And I know also the means of getting it, which is Purushartha Swarupa. And then I also got the Upaya Swarupa, where my body, mind and speech are inspired by means of Gayathri Mantra. And then that I have achieved, the final Jnana, is where the individual me, the self, has become one with the universal. And this is the posture of Namaskara. That means the individual Jiva and the universal Paramatma are one and the same. And with that sense, we actually complete the Sankshipta Puja Vidhi. So in our next meeting, we will probably start looking at the Shastra, that is how our scriptures are constructed, unless there is any other suggestions from the assembly. Thank you. With that, we'll conclude our study tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ashok. Thank you very much, and we'll look forward.